Good evening. Tonight I'm joined by V8 shell specialist Guy Jolly. Welcome, Guy, and thank you for joining me tonight.
Oh yeah.
How did you first get into racing?
Uh, First got into racing through my dad. He was he started going when he was a little kid with his brothers, and he was always a follower of the F1s and used to predominantly follow Willie Harrison. And then in later years, he got in helping Paul, and Paul was racing and Paul Harrison at the time, and he got in helping him at weekends. And obviously, as I grew up, I started helping them. And as I got old enough to sort of race myself, minis were never in a question because they just looked a lot of a lot of meetings and just something what we wasn't prepared to do. So V8's become an option because obviously F1's again too expensive and didn't really suit the budget. So yeah, that's how and the V8 come up at the right money, and here we are now, 14 years later, I think. So
So why V8s then and not F2s or F1s or, jumping straight into those formulas?
as I said, I think the F1 thing is definitely appealing, and it's something obviously I still follow a lot now. But it's as Jordan would tell you with his dad. I mean, it's one thing racing one, but then obviously if you want to compete in one, it's a different ball game, and you've got to be willing to commit a lot of time away from home, and you've also got to be willing to pump a lot of money into it, which, to be honest, it's not really something I'm in a viable position to do. So I'd rather compete in a V8, how we're doing, than go in an F1 being polite just to make the numbers up at the front. I know that might sound a bit bullish in some respects, but I think you could probably ask a lot of drivers and they'd say the same. If they want to do it, they want to have a proper go. They don't just want to go into it to sort of have a toodle around kind of thing. So V8s has always been more appealing in that respect.
Okay. So how big an influence do you feel your dad was in your racing then?
Oh, he was massive. As I said, if it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't have even been going racing, which is just one thing. Um, and as I said, he grew up with it, and obviously I was always with him going to watch F1s, and he always had such a passion for it. Even right up to sort of last year when he passed, he was always a keen follower and was always wanting to know what was going on. And I wouldn't say he lived and breathed it, but it was very much a big part of his life, especially at weekends. And it was, as I said, we wouldn't have even looked at racing if it hadn't been for him. And when we started, he was a bit apprehensive to begin with, like I guess all dads are. But I think when he realised we was actually doing okay at it, and we was started getting a few results, he really got behind us and started saying, "Well, if you're going to do this, you need to be doing this, and vice versa, kind of thing." And yeah, as I said, we wouldn't be where we are now with Elton, that's for sure.
So massive influence then for you and positive one is that at that.
Definitely.
Classed as a Hotstox veteran now, 2021 being your 14th season, do you have a best on track moment from over the years?
Mm. Best on track moment. That's a tough one. There's been a lot. There's been some good moments and some bad moments, obviously, but good moments. Oh, I'd probably say winning my first final was memorable. I don't think you ever forget that, or even your first race actually. Um, I could even now, even though it's quite a few years ago, I can still remember it quite well, like it was yesterday. But so yeah, I'd say actually my first race because that's always what sticks with you, isn't it? So
So, coming into the V8s, what made you choose the team name, Team Meerkat?
it's well, obviously when you go back to 2008, that's the sort of time when is it Oslov? Is it Oslov they call him on the TV?
Don't know.
Uh, it's compare the
Oh,
market.com
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I know who you mean. Yeah.
you need to watch your Corribor and then you'd see what I mean. I think they sponsor that, don't they? And yeah, he was all at that point. That was just coming into a thought, and it was always on TV. And we was thinking, it's if you have like a gimmick on your car. We found it from watching F1s again. Like a few drivers run different images on their car, and it's something people can relate to. Like they might not necessarily follow you, but when you say team maker or you say somebody's got say for instance a bear on their car, people know exactly who they're on about. And it was something which was a bit of fun at the start, but then people, as I said, got to know Team Meerkat, and it sort of just stuck with us right through to the present day.
You have been known to wear that meerkat costume as well, haven't you?
Yeah, but that's more in a social sense. I don't. You wouldn't see me putting it on it not in
Not
normal
going to drive in it then.
circumstances. Definitely not. There's too many heads been in it. It stinks.
So could you share some of your most memorable moments from your earlier years?
As I said, winning the first race at Stoke in 2012, I think that was a memorable one. Um, uh, Winning the first championship, the Supreme, or whatever they call it, the Supreme Trophy. That was obviously a big one as well, because that's something when you do racing, you always if you can win a major, that's always a highlight. Getting to Superstar, that was another one. And then there's also been some bad moments as well. We've had a few scuffles with people over the years as well. So, but yeah, as I said, that in all fairness, I could list 20 memorable moments. You could be talking about them for an hour, but if I had to pinpoint three, they're probably the three I've just said. Yeah.
So when you came into the V8s, did you set yourself any goals and have you achieved them?
Uh, yeah, to be fair, when we started, it was only meant to be a fun thing, just doing a few meetings in between, because obviously my dad was still helping Paul a lot of the weekends, and we was just going to sort of fit around when we had a spare weekend. But again, then it sort of grabs you in, and we wanted to do more and more. And yeah, as I said, it's just sort of gone on from there, really.
So your first win, how actually was that? How, can you talk us through that?
Um, yeah, it was a bit unexpected, really, because up to that point, it was a Grand National, and we'd had a shocker of a night. I think we got rode over in the first race, um, and crushed all the bonnet. The second race, we were spun around and put in a wall backwards. And then, from what I remember, in the third race, we had a flat tyre. So I didn't really expect much more. And we thought we'd give a Grand National a go. The car was sort of patched up, so we went in there. And they from what I remember, they watered the track really heavy, and cars were just skated everywhere, and we just kept going right through the middle, and I think we ended up winning by about half a lap. I was shocked. Didn't sink in till 2 days later.
So a massive surprise then, because the car wasn't in the toppest of forms.
Well, it was, as I said, it was just, it's like now if you start a night and it goes pretty crappy, shall I say, it sort of develops into a night which you tend to forget. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's just a mindset people get in, but if you have a bad couple of races and get damage, it puts you in a bit of a downer for the rest of the night. So,
Yeah.
And mostly, as I said, that is how it goes. But that race, everything just went the opposite, and it didn't matter what I done with a car. It just went straight through the middle of people without even giving it a second thought, and everything just went perfect. And as I said, we won, and it was a bit of a shock, but it was nice to get the monkey off the back. So I think we'd been
Yeah.
racing 4 years at that point. So
Takes a while to get that win sometimes, doesn't it?
yeah, definitely.
So scoring heat and final doubles, scoring almost 100 points at Coventry doing a joker. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. Uh, Again, that was a bit of a funny one, because it was the first year V8s decided to run a joker system where if you like everything was doubled up, and you was allocated a shale joker for the year and a tarmac joker which you could use at any point. And obviously, naturally, most of the drivers were keeping them for a back end of the year. and I see Coventry come up, and this is a time when V8s were getting really good turnouts, and I think that particular meeting there was about 35 or 36 cars booked in. And I remember going to my dad a week before, because you had to give some notice when you was going to play one. I said, I think I'm going to play my Joker. And he was like, are you bloody mad? Like, he said, you don't stand a chance. And I said, well, I'm going to play it and get it out of the way, because I don't want it sitting with us all year. And then when you do play it, you end up having a crap meeting. So we done it and just went on track, not really just to have a normal meeting. And it was one of them just perfect nights. We won the heat, and I think it was a 2/3 format that night. The second heat we had a second place, and then in a final I think there was 36 cars in a final, and again we just had a perfect start. And just to be polite about it, we just drove away from everybody starting from blue, and it was yeah, we won it. And as I said, it heat and final double, and to win a final at Cov in front of a big F1 crowd as well, that was special in itself. And being double points as well, and I think it was a memorial trophy as well.
Yeah.
For Darren Cottrell's dad. I mean, it was just one of them nights you'll never forget.
Just everything fell into place on the right night.
Yeah, and then obviously we all went in a bar, and I spent the winnings buying everybody drinks. And so
not much left then.
Yeah.
In your V8 career, who would you class as your favourite drivers to race against?
Favourite drivers to race against?
Yeah.
I think if I had, I wouldn't say I've got favourites, because I respect them all for being out on track, because I know it's quite a, you have to have, I think, some balls about you to even get in one, because until people have a go, they don't realise how tough it is.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say I've got favourites, but I do enjoy racing. I always enjoy racing with people like Stephen Young. He's always has a good race. We have a bit of a joke about it. Kev, although he always beats us, but he's a clean driver, and he never ever do you in a bad way unless he thinks you've done some wrongdoing to him. Yeah. He'll always find the right moment to sort of go by you, and then he just leaves you in the dust most of the time. But yeah, he's good. Amy Jagger, she's another one you can have a good race with, and a bit of a joke about it afterwards. So it's just things like that, really. You just learn who you can race with and who you can't, really.
Yeah. COVID's had an impact on the sport. How have you found it?
Last year was tough. It was I think if you asked a lot of drivers, or even teams and people that go with them, when you've been used to being committed to something for a number of years, when it suddenly stops, you naturally find it a bit tough, because we suddenly had all these weekends, where we even probably yourself sat there. It was you suddenly think, Jesus, what am I going to do? And you start twiddling your thumbs a bit, because obviously you're not racing, so you're not got to work on a car, and you've got a lot of friends there you're not seeing, and you kind of, in a way, you start to wonder, when you do go back, are you still going to feel in the right mindset to, go out and be competitive again? Because you don't really know when you're laid off for that long. But then they started in, I think it was August.
Yeah.
And again, that was a bit of a strange one, because it was a season, but we got told it wasn't going to be serious. And again, you kind of think, should you, with everything going on in the back of your head, you think, is it a right thing to be doing, or do with all different things going on, and it just a lot of emotions, really. And as I said, it's nice now we're in a position this year where it looks like, all being well and things keep going the way they are, we should get a fairly full season. So
do you think you're prepared enough for this season then?
I don't know. I'm always lastminute.com, so I'm prepared enough. But yeah, I think we're looking forward to it. As I said, I've seen the fixtures we've got, and I think it should be a cracking year. So and obviously the world final is going to be on shale, which we enjoy as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I just hope that everybody, with the layoff last year, everybody sort of comes back before like 2019. Everybody at race then comes back this year, and we
Yeah,
can have a real good season, and you're not sort of struggling with like 15 or 16 cars at a meeting again. So
yeah. Be nice to get those numbers higher, wouldn't it?
definitely.
Major championships. Let's talk about those. Does it bother you that you've won some smaller ones like the Supreme and the under 25s, Northern Midlands, and or 8 or 9 finals, but are yet to win a major title?
Uh, it does and it doesn't. Um, as I said, I think in the first respect, you have to consider yourself lucky you've won any form, even just even just a race, because there's some drivers that don't, in fairness, ever get a chance to win a race. So I think that's the first thing. And then if
Yeah,
you're lucky enough to win a final, again, that's something special in itself. And then obviously I've been lucky enough to win a few minor championships, and so it's. I don't think I'm unlucky. I think it's. I think on my day I'm good enough to win one if the circumstances fall right. But it's whether it'll ever come. It's a bit out of my hands. It's what the other 20 or 25 drivers do as well, isn't it? So
do you think you got more of a chance then of that world title this year with it being on shale?
um, don't
It's
know
been on
really.
tarmac for a couple of years.
The thing I've found since I've been racing, I remember I started on Road 2 in 2016 at Coventry, and in fairness, I thought we had a good chance there. We was going well and driving well that year, and again, until the green flag drops, you don't know how stuff's
Yeah,
going to play out. I mean, you you see some real strange races, and you see some pretty. You can pick a winner before you start style of
yeah,
races. So I don't. I'm a believer. I don't think anybody has a right to win a championship more than anybody else, because even a white top starting at the back on a world final grid, he's obviously done well to even qualify for that race.
yeah.
So if they have a chance and there's a massive pile up and they're suddenly in the top three at the end of it, good luck to them. So
Yeah, I
it,
suppose that's,
it,
like the conditions that we had at Skegness, I mean, that world final with all that water, that really scuppered things for a lot of people, didn't it? But it's, whether how you managed to get through that.
yeah, definitely. And I think as well that was a race. I was just saying. I mean, myself and a heap of cars was all gone and out the race within in a couple of corners really, and looking at it in a week leading up to it, if it had been dry, it probably would have been nothing like that. But as I
Yeah,
said, you until a day comes, you just never know what you're going to get. I mean, there could be a monsoon before the race again, and it just be the person that survives a lapse and not really a
sure,
race at all. So you just never know.
sure. Winning under 25s on tarmac, was that your first tarmac win?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
It's quite an achievement then for you.
I think I've won 3 races on tarmac up to yet. One's been a under 25s championship, one's been a final, and one was the first ever winner at Aldershot. So I'd say that I've picked 3 good ones to win on tarmac. So,
So
um,
not that bad on tarmac then.
well, I don't know, if you average it over 14 years, it's pretty crap, isn't it? But
I don't race, so I'm not going to comment on that one. You're known as a shale specialist. Why do you prefer shale over tarmac?
um, to be fair, when we started, I believe it or not, we actually look forward to a tarmac more than a shale, because when you're learning, it's hard on shale,
Right.
because it's one thing driving a car, and then it's another thing actually getting to go fast and actually get up in a placings. But as you gain more experience, I think shales, I'd like to say, sort of separates the men from a boys kind of thing. You can have the best car in the world, but if you can't drive it, you're not going to do any good.
Yeah, I
Um,
think, we found that with when I was talking with Matt the other week, Matt
mm,
Young and Stephen Young, and they were saying, it's a totally different way of racing.
yeah, there's. I think the thing I can best describe it, and it's not knocking anybody at all. It's each to their preference, but I think in V8s, I think there's probably 5 or 6 cars on tarmac, and again, if things go as a way a race should, there's probably one of them 4 or 5 people what are going to win the race.
Yeah,
Whereas on shale, I think there's potentially 14 or 15 drivers which have got a chance of winning that race in every single race, and then you've got the variety of you could get a lower grader, get away, drive his heart out, and win as well because a shale's a good leveler. So it's just something which is suited my sort of driving, and it's just something we seem to go well on. And as I said, I feel like I can compete with the best of them on shale. So it's just
yeah.
something we're confident on. So
So how does it feel then when you do win your races on tarmac?
unexpected. No, it's a nice feeling. As I said, I think the first one at Skegness that was fully that was a big surprise because again it was a championship and there were some real quick guys in that. But again, it started raining about 20 minutes before the race started, and it just threw it wide open, and we just kept our head. And while they was all battling at the back, we just snuck away and ended up winning it. So it was again, it just shows it how unpredictable it is.
Yeah.
And this one was special at Taunton this year because that was in normal circumstances, and we actually had the car going real well that weekend, and I felt like I'd done everything I needed to on that day to put myself in a position. And I really wanted to get a win that weekend because, as I said, for once I felt like we had the pace to do it. It was a bit unlucky for John with a yellow flag because John obviously was leading with a lap to go and they yellow flagged it. But
Yeah.
at the same time, that gave me a chance to try and have a go. And luckily, I got away with it and ended up snatching a win from him. So sorry,
Bit of
John, you can
rivalry
settle for
there.
second.
So you always seem to go well and have good success at both Mildenhall and Coventry through the years when Coventry was open when racing there. Why do you think that was?
I just like the style of it. Coventry was a funny track because you could ask all drivers, you could go there for one meeting and everything be, the track still shale, but you could go there one meeting and it could be totally different to what it was 2 weeks previous.
Right.
It was always, and you had to alter your car fully again to get it to go around. But I don't know, I can't really say, but I always feel like some drivers, Coventry was sort of a sacred place for stock cars, probably a bit like Bradford will be when it comes back. And
Yeah.
most drivers always wanted to do well at Coventry, and whether
Yeah.
it's because they just put pressure on themselves, but it just never used to bother us. And because I've even since you've been doing this, I've watched some others, and everybody said they struggled at Cov, but it was always the opposite for us. And we've had quite a few wins at Coventry, and it was all just always seemed to suit the way I drive again, and
Yeah.
I just went well. I don't think there's any answer, and Mildenhall's the same really. It just everything seems to click there, and we can mix it about a bit, and luckily do well from it. So
It has to be mentioned. Jolly versus Team Jacqueline. Christmas Bellevue 2016. Can you talk us through it?
yeah, I've got to be careful what I say here, haven't I? So gets to the first race. If we want a quickened up version, everything's smooth, no issues, and then we get to heat 2. And I think it was Sam Jacklin was leading a race, and his dad, which was I forget, Steve Jacklin, that's it. I come around to lap him, and I was catching his brother. I was in second catching him, and his son, sorry, and I was catching him up with 2 or 3 laps to go, and I lap his dad coming to a corner, and out of nowhere, he just drives straight across the centre of a corner and takes us clean out of a race from a lap
Right.
down. So I didn't think nothing of it. I thought, in all honesty, I thought straight away he's done that to obviously help his son win a race, which, right or wrong, sort of let it go. And then gets back to the pits. It squashed all the wheel guarding on a wheel. It damaged the gearbox because it jammed the wheel up, so we had to swap a gearbox. And when I actually got back and see the damage it caused, I was quite cheesed off about it. But again, I was willing to sort of let it lie. And then people in the pit started coming up and saying, not going to tell you what to do and that, but you do realise that was blatant team racing, don't you? And then I said, well, I can sort of understand it. And then somebody come up and who had videoed it, and it just clearly shows it had gone straight across the corner to get me. And when I see that, I just instantly thought, like, that wasn't really the right way to do it.
Yeah.
So we come to a final, and bear in mind this is a Christmas meeting.
Yeah. So I mean, what was going through your mind going into that meeting final?
Yeah, it was well, it was, for a start, there was quite a bit of money on it because V8's always done like a winner takes all style of thing for Christmas meetings.
Yeah.
So they lined us up in points order, and I think I was sitting about second or third row, and Sammy's son was on the front row, and Steve was behind me somewhere. We go into a first corner, a massive pile up, and I think it took everybody par about 2 cars out. And I sort of managed to get going again. And as I come by, I see Steve had sort of gone up the inside of us. And I thought, yeah, you could have some of this back now. So going down the back straight, I just, to be quite honest, I just picked him up at the end of a straight and put him straight through what wires pretty much. But and got back to the pits, and everybody's like, you done the right thing here, you done this, you done that. And I always remember Gary Maynard, before we come, he's like, that was blatant team racing, and giving it all this and that. He said they needed doing that, teach them a lesson. I was like, all right, we've obviously done the right thing here. And then on the way home, they was all on about it on Stuxnet and how it made the meeting kind of thing. And I thought, well, they was clearly approval of it as well, so I clearly did do the right thing. But me and Steve shook hands afterwards, and it was just a racing thing at a time. I think tensions were a bit high straight after the race, obviously with his team and stuff. But they've obviously probably have a chance to get me back some point in the future, won't they? So.
So, I mean, have there been any other rivalries over the years?
Not as such. I get on well with everybody, to be fair. There was one, I had a little run in with Chris BriSCA once at Coventry. That was something what was building up over a few meetings, which it wasn't really nothing to shout home about. As I said, it was something that boiled up. I felt like he'd had a few shots at us at a few meetings previous, and I just see a chance at Coventry one night and put him away, and then come around again, and he picked me up and then put me in a fence post on the top of a fence up the other end of a track. And then afterwards we were fine about it. We got called to the stewards, I think, to sort of give our versions of what happened. But as I said, me and Chris were fine after that, and then it was never no more problem. But
because I mean, I must admit, you know, I mean, watching you race, you know, and you know, I mean, there's one race that I remember at Skegness where I think Dave, my dad, and I think it was one of the Thompson brothers were in battling it out, and I think they were in first and second. You were just behind them, and it's something that's always stuck with me with your racing is that, you know, they were battling for first and second, and I mean, we were really excited because it's a high position my dad had been in, and you managed to just take both of them and get the win. And I think it was I can't remember which race it was, whether it was a heat or the Grand National or something like that. but you did it so cleanly without taking either of those out. And I think that's something that's stuck with me whenever I've seen you race, is
Mm.
that you are very good at, finding those gaps and, making a clean pass. I'm not saying that, that's all the time, but,
Uh,
majority of the time, I think that's, do you
I
think that's
think
important?
I think the thing people need to remember in stock caring is it's a contact sport, but sometimes if you're just gonna go balls out and take every driver out with you, in a way you're probably letting them behind you have an easier run to get to you.
Yeah,
Whereas if you can pass them clean and get away, that next car that's chasing you's then got to fight to get by them as well.
yeah,
And I think some people don't always think of that when they just, as I said, go and fire them away. And yeah, don't get me wrong, it's each to their own, and if that works for them, it works for them. But if I can get by them without touching them, I'd like to think that they'd respect that in another sense and think, well, he's done it a clean way, and I know it isn't always like that, but if it comes to another situation, they'd remember that in the future and think, well, I'm not going to put him out. I'll try and race him fair.
yeah.
So,
Well, I'd
um,
like to thank you for not taking Dave out that day, because it was his highest place that he's got so far, getting that third. We were very happy with that, and I know he was. So there've
he can
been a
buy
lot.
me a pint if he wants for that.
All right, okay, I'll get him to buy you a pie. I'm sure he will. There've been a lot of tracks over the years come and go, and there are tracks that have gone. Are there any tracks that you've gone that you missed out on that you wish that you could have raced at?
Mm, obviously upset. Probably not an upset as in crying about it, but I was quite upset obviously when Coventry shut,
Yeah,
because that was, as I said, a happy hunting ground for us, and always used to do well. Wherever we started, we always used to go well at Coventry, and so that was a bit sad. Obviously Stoke more recently, another good track for us. We'd had a few wins there, so. But any track really, as I said, when I watch things back from like before my time in years gone by. I mean, some of the tracks that they used to race at years ago, they looked like they was awesome tracks, like the old Bellevue, and before the one which is recently just gone. I mean,
yeah,
that looked an awesome track, and I think from stories I've heard, a place when it was a big meeting on was just an awesome place to be, atmosphere and everything. And I've just heard so many people on about that place, and yeah, I think that's probably one that I'd probably say I'd like to have raced at, and Wimbledon as well, because I went to Wimbledon to watch,
right,
and again that was just looked an awesome track. So
yeah. So which would you say is your current favourite track?
mm, that's a tough one. Uh, as I said, I think in all honesty now, it's probably got to be Mildredal, because as I said, we just go do well there, and it's close to home. We're home within an hour, so it's you always like them tracks where you can
Yeah,
finish and you be home having your tea when you get somebody like yourselves or Billows who's still on her way home kind of
yeah,
thing.
long
But
way.
yeah, that's I'd say that's probably my favourite. But again, I like all shale tracks. I mean, a lot of people moan about Sheffield, but I enjoy racing at Sheffield. I mean, I've had a lot of bad meetings there, but I've also had real good meetings. And as I said, you don't want to. You could even Buxton. I hardly ever go there, but I also see good racing there. So you can't
Yeah,
really say any track's crap, can you? Really?
I think they all have their own merits, don't they?
Yeah, definitely.
So Bradford's coming back. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's big for the sport in general, because with the amount of tracks they lost the last few years, I think I just think a track of that stature and how many people it can hold, and obviously a history behind it when they went there before it had a layoff. I think it'll be an awesome venue, and I, you can never say to take a track's place, but I think since Coventry shut, there has been a bit of a lull in the sport, because that's
Yeah,
where everybody went, everybody congregated, fans used to go and meet there. and I just think Bradford will probably bring a bit more of that back.
Yeah.
Which, as I said, you don't really know until it happens, but I'm convinced it is good for the sport in the long run.
Yeah. Are there any funny, memorable moments on and off track you can share with us?
Too many. I could share a lot, but a lot of them shouldn't be on here filmed, so I can't. I'm not going to share any of them with you. Oh, I think that there's some guys which used to go. They still do go, but obviously they used to be with us a lot more in the days gone by, and we just used to have such a laugh going to meetings. It was. I remember we got a flat tire once on the way to a meeting in a lorry, and we all stopped to change it, and Keith Organ, who was a chairman for V8s, he used to travel with us, and he got off and he was trying to lend a helping hand, and I thought, being funny, I thought I'd go up to him while he was changing a thing, and I said to Keith, "Have you ever been teabagged, Keith?" And he said, "I don't want to be teabagged, mate. I'm trying to help." And I think he thought in a rude way, and so he was doing that, and I went back in and got a tea bag, and I sort of cut it open and damped it, and then went and stuck it in his like ear, and it all broke up, and it all went all over him, and he just flipped his rocker. I mean, it's hard to explain, but he was so annoyed, and I generally believe, I don't think he spoke to us from the point we got back in a lorry all that night. He went home and he didn't speak to us hardly until the next day.
So very long journey home after that then.
Yeah, I mean, we've just done some silly things. There was another lad, Jaff, that helped us. He always used to wear shorts to a meeting, and we always used to say to him, "Why'd you come racing wearing shorts when you're going to get covered in crap?" Because this was even in like a winter time, and he was climbing through into a cab to do some at once. We always used to try and keg him and pull his shorts down, and he used to get so wound up about it and used to threaten to do all sorts to us, but. It was we just used to have some fun, but I think some of it's, as I said, I can't tell you some of the better stories because they're a bit rude. So
Yeah, we have to watch who's watching. What would your ideal weekend away be?
in terms of racing or in general?
In general. If
Ideal weekend. I don't know really. I
if
quite
it's a
like.
racing weekend, then you could put that in there, but Shannon might disagree with you.
Do you know what? I'll be brutally honest here, and I hope I don't sound really cheesy saying it, but even if there's no racing on, I don't think you can actually physically, in a social sense, beat a weekend down Skegness because there's so much to do. And if you actually go into Skegness itself and you've got some friends of that with you, you can have such a good crack down there. It's
So
it
back to
just.
Skeg Vegas then.
Yeah, you can ride a donkey, you can go karting, you can play golf. I mean, what more do you want? But in terms of non-racing, as I said, I think just a nice weekend away, a break somewhere, obviously with the other half and Shannon, and yeah, anything. Spending time with the dogs, really, going away
What, the
somewhere
other
we've
half
not been.
and Shannon was that?
Well, I said other half, and then I thought I'd say Shannon because you obviously know who Shannon is anyway. So
Just checking.
yeah.
Get yourself in trouble there. So when you're not racing, what do you like to do?
Again, just spend time with Shannon and the dogs. Really, we like to take pretty boring. Really, we take the dogs for walks. Watch if there's some crap on TV, we'll watch that. If there's a good series or something, like going out for food now, like when we can. Obviously, we've not been able to do a lot of that lately, and meet up with people and do that, and just try and have a bit of a healthy social life, really. Because I think even in V8s, I know it's probably not like F1s and F2s, but when a year's on, it's such a commitment at weekends. I mean, you leave to go to a meeting on, say, a Saturday, and if it's a double header, you're probably not back until 11, 12 o'clock on Sunday night, and that's your weekend gone then fully, and you've not even seen it really. So yeah, just when we can, we just like to just do normal things really, just away from it and go and have some fun really. So
work-wise then, I mean, what do you do work-wise? Does that help, or, did you find that it's difficult fitting the racing in with that, or?
I'm quite fortunate with work really. I work as a logistics manager for a specialised concrete flooring company, Civil Industrial Products, and my boss, he does know what I do. He's never really got into detail and asked what I do, but he's very he's good, and he helps us with some bits and pieces and that, and some sponsorship here and there for different bits when we need it. So yeah, he's quite understanding, and it's quite nice because we do a lot of on site work, and
Yeah.
it's one of them jobs when the work's done, it's done. It's not sort of to a sort of time thing. He just, what as long as the job's done, he doesn't care. So it's we tend to get the jobs done, and then if there's a spare hour at the end of the day, he kind of let you go, like, and then we can go and work on a stock car. So it's
Good incentive to get your work done quick then.
yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, if we are real busy, and there's times where we are late and we late home some nights, but
Yeah.
it's like any job, as I said, it as long as it pays the bills and it pays for the stock car, it's the main thing, really, isn't it? So
So, as a member of the current BOC representing the other drivers, what do you see or want to see in the future for V8s?
I think things like we're doing now on here. I mean, I've always been a strong believer that in the modern times, social media has got to be used as a
Yeah.
platform to get things out there, not just in terms of stock cars, but anything. I mean, the days are gone where people pick up a magazine now and they think, oh, we do that. It's all done through social media,
Yeah.
so to speak. So I think fit more things like this, and just have a big social presence, because if you can sell a drivers on a platform, people are going to come to watch them, in my opinion. But you're not going to sell a product unless you can sell it for them, are you, in a
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
So um,
So, what does your current role involve then?
me personally, I just try and have a bit of an input where I can. Obviously, because I'm still a current driver, I just try and have an input in things, as in a sense of the in between guy between the other drivers and the people at the fore of it, like Neil, who's a chairman. Obviously, if there's something going on or a driver says, well, can we look into this, I can then relay it to Neil, and I can keep track of it and keep following it until we get an outcome. And then it's just a sort, I wouldn't say I'm a go-to person, but I just try and give. Sometimes I feel the best way of describing it is, if you're the board members which aren't currently racing, they're probably going to view not everything, but there is going to be certain things they probably look from a different perspective because they're not on track.
Yeah.
Whereas a driver's going to see it from a totally different perspective to them. So obviously, me being in the middle, I'm not saying it does work like that, but hopefully you can sort of try and see it from both points to give an honest opinion.
Yeah.
And as I said, it's not always like that, but I do feel there has been certain things where it has been like that, and I touch wood, they'll probably say different and probably say I'm just there for the crack, to be honest. Um, but I think in fairness, if I could have an input and help in some way, as I said, I'm happy doing it and helping them. But they do a great job, all of them. As I said, we do, like I watched the one Paul done last week. The stuff the boards had to go through this last few months in sorting everything out, all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, there was 2 or 3 weeks where Neil and Paul and Mick and Sharon, all of them, and Sophie and a BSCDA. It was just toing and throwing all the time, just to try and get a season underway and get a
Right.
fixture
Yeah.
list together. And I don't think people sitting here watching this realise just sometimes just how time consuming that side of it is.
Yeah, I think it takes an awful lot of time. You know, you're on the BOC. You know, you also have a passion for promoting the sport as well, such as, I mean, we've done the behind the driver interviews. You started those up. The question of stocks, the promotional goods, just a few, just to name a few things that you've done, and of course these interviews as well. Why do you feel, you know, why do you get behind those? Why do you feel it's, you know, important to push those?
I think it's just like I said previous. I think I'm not F1s are obviously the pinnacle in oval racing, in my opinion. But obviously, I'm a believer that V8s have a place, and I've always looked at V8s as like the smaller, well, not smaller, I'd say the little brothers to the F1s kind of
Yeah,
thing. So, and a lot of them drivers progressively move on to them. So, I just think they've got an appeal which can be sold to people. And I mean, we, I mean, it's proved it with bits you and Jordan have done on here, and obviously Joe Bamford's helped with bits. Obviously, we've got such a good PR team now with Shannon as well. And it we can just do so much more than we could,
yeah,
and things we've done in the last few months. It showed because people you've had good feedback. We obviously done the t-shirts at Taunton, which my print hut supported with us, and they fully sold out at Taunton. And I mean that was a shocker to all of us
yeah.
because we thought they'd do well, but to fully sell out, I mean, none of us expected that. So it just shows there is a market to do stuff. So we, and as I said, everything you do is promoting a sport at the same time. So while we're in a position to do it, why not? So
I suppose, did you feel that, you know, while you're promoting it, it, you know, reaches a bigger audience as well? Because I mean, it's trying to get that audience in to come and see the V8s and see the other formulas as well, you know, get new interest in the formula.
yeah, definitely, because the thing is, you've got, I think to a certain degree, you obviously, I race V8s. Some people follow V8s. Some follow different things. So but I'm a believer that when you're all at a meeting together, a majority of them people are still going to watch everything that's on. So if you can sell a product here, at the end of the day, the whole sport's a winner, because if you can
Yeah,
get an extra 5 people to a meeting, they might go and they might have gone because they see it on V8s, but they might go and watch, say, the F1s and F2s and think they're bloody awesome, and then not give a monkeys about V8s. But as long as they go back to a meeting, the sport's gained from it, hasn't it? So,
yeah.
um, and that's my philosophy. Obviously, we want them to like the V8s, and I'm pretty sure when we get good grids, they obviously do. But I just think it's an important thing. As I said, I'm quite conscious of the fact that you need to promote stuff, as I said, to put it out there, because with no promotion, nothing happens, does it? So,
Yeah. So do you think that, you know, it'd be good for the V8s and other formulas to all work together to promote the racing then?
yeah, I think there could definitely be more done. I mean,
Yeah,
it's I don't think I'm really the person to say what that thing should be, but I've watched a few of these, not just V8s, F1s, and other things, and all the drivers sort of seem to give the same sort of opinion that there's so much more that could be done. But I suppose the things people want done start costing a sport a lot of money. So
yeah,
it's I suppose you've got to draw a line down the middle, and you've got to be careful as well, because if you, I mean, a lot of fans and that say they'd like prop. I know you've got Premier Sports, but I know they'd want a lot of TV coverage.
mm,
But sometimes TV coverage can sometimes have a knock-on effect, because if people can watch it at home on TV for free, are they still
sure.
going to pay £20 to go and watch a meeting live? It's a catch twenty
Yeah,
two, isn't it?
yeah.
So um, you've just got, it's just got to have a bit of fit. As I said, I don't really know what the answer is, but I definitely think more could be done. So
If you could change one thing in the sport, what would that be?
is that more to V8s as a sport as a whole?
I think more for V8s.
Um, I think if I could change one major thing, which I don't think it'll ever happen, but I think V8 should really be just a one car thing. I mean, I've had two cars in the past. I'll hold my hands up. I've had two cars, but I'm not a believer that that's within a spirit of what V8s were designed for. Because I think if you're going to start running two cars at a competitive level in V8s, I generally believe that some people coming in are just trying to do it on a basic wage, no sponsor backing, or and just trying to do it on a real,
On a
small
budget.
scale. They might look at it and think that looks quite expensive. We're not going to look at that, and then look at something lower down. So, as I said, I don't think it'll ever happen because it should have been something what should have been controlled 10 years ago or even longer than that. But and you can't expect people to give up their cars. But I feel.
So do you think that one car does suit all then?
A lot still do run one car. Obviously, I've run one car the last few seasons, and it is a struggle on tarmac. I'm not going to lie, but at the same time, I can be blamed for that because until last year, we really didn't put the time in to get it right for tarmac, and when we did, we started getting results. So I definitely think you could do it with one car, but again, people do it for a simple thing when you can just roll one car in a shed and roll the other one out. It's just easier, isn't it? You haven't got to swap bits, but from a cost side of it, it'd save drivers a lot of money, and it'd probably encourage a lot more people to at least look at V8s because they'd think, well, if we can do shale and tarmac with one car, we're on a winner straight away, But when they start probably thinking, well, we can race with one car, but are we really going to get anywhere with one car? It might make them think again. So,
because I mean, there are quite a few drivers that still just have the one car out there, isn't there? And they're still doing, they're still getting decent results. So do you think that's down to setup then?
yeah, I think I like any sport. You get out what you put in. And as I said, I'll admit, up until last year, I obviously didn't spend a lot of time focusing on tarmacs. I enjoyed my shale. But because we didn't have much shale last year, it enabled me to spend more time focusing on tarmac. And obviously it paid off because we managed to win a final from Red with it. So it clearly proves that it does help, and it is just a lot more of a time thing. But you've got to also bear in mind, not every driver has the facilities and the time to spend hours on their car, do they? So it's again, it's like a full circle thing. Yeah, definitely.
Who would you say are the top three current drivers in the sport?
Top three current drivers. Well, without a doubt, I think Kev Stuchby's got to be number one because before me, and I don't actually know how old Kev is. but
I'm not getting into that one.
Yeah. Don't tell him I said that. But he's been your main man in V8s right from when I started, before I come in, and he still is now. And I don't care what anybody says about him. When he's on track, he's a bastard. So excuse my language, you can edit that out. But as I said, he's so competitive, and he'll always race you fair. As I said before, he's one of the cleanest drivers out there. But when you can go by him in a pits and speak to him, and you get the impression he's not interested, and then they go on track and he'll blitz you the next race. So,
do you think he's probably misunderstood, Kev?
I just think he's. I don't. You can't really look at it from his position, can you? Because he's won so much on multiple occasions. It's he probably sees things in a slightly different light to probably somebody even like myself. What's still chasing a first major, so he probably looks at it as a totally different philosophy on it. I mean, I don't know, but he's obviously still hungry to be chasing points titles after all them years. And as I said, to still have that get up and go each season, as I said, I'd put him at number one. And as for your other two, Ollie Spencer, I mean, he's got to be right up there. I mean, he's committed and he's an all-out kind of lad. He's a cracking lad off track as well to have a laugh with. As I said, he on his day he's one of, if not the quickest on occasion. And for number three, it's a tough one because people come and go, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, because I think everybody on their day could be number three, couldn't they? In all fairness, I'm not gonna, as I said, on their day, everybody's
Stumped
quick.
you.
So I'd put Ollie and Kev definitely your top two, and then number three, I wouldn't like to say really, because I'm not going to say people that come and go out of it, because it wouldn't be fair, would it? So
yeah. Okay.
John Brown, actually, I've just thought John Brown, because the last couple of years he's been on an upward spiral, hasn't he? And he was last year he really did knock it up another level. So I'd say he's going to be.
I think he's one to watch this season. Then
I think if he can, I think he's got a new car coming out. So if he can sort that, I believe that he's going to be. He's definitely going to be pushing for the points, I'd imagine, if he can.
Have you ever thought about changing formulas or racing something else?
I haven't. As I said, I think the thing is, again, it's all V8 suit my budget. They suit what I want to do. I wouldn't say you've got your feet under a table there, but you're like part of the furniture there. So everything you look at a lot easier than what you would if you've only been in it a couple of years. I had a couple of goes in a saloon a couple of years back, a 2-litre saloon, and quite enjoyed that. But they're just madmen, really.
I was going to ask you, to tell us a little bit about your 2-litre saloon experience.
I enjoyed it, and to be fair, I was really lucky when Cole Boswell offered us a go in his car, because it was a good bit of kit. I enjoyed it. As I said, the weird thing is with them, the hits are really hard, but I think because you sit so far away from the point of contact, you don't actually feel the hits, in my opinion, as much as you do in a V8 or I'd imagine an F1 or anything, because when obviously you're sat right in front of a back bumper on one of them, so the minute they hit you, it's going right through you. Whereas you've got a bit more between you in one of them. But I still couldn't go into a big race with them because they're just crazy. I remember the one go I had, they was piling me into a corner, the first corner, and I hadn't even changed gear yet. So
had to be a bit quicker off the mark then.
Yeah, as I said, full respect to them, because there's some gutsy people in them to put it on a line like I do. But there's that. And as I said, I'd love a go in an F1, but if I'd done F1s, I'd want to do it. I'd at least want to think I could have a chance of fighting for a win. I wouldn't want to go in it in a sense of, as I said, just to make a numbers up. I'd want to feel like I could at least give it a good go. And so it's whether it'll ever happen, I don't think it'll ever happen full time. But whether we have a go, that remains to be seen further down the line, doesn't it? Really.
So, who do you actually enjoy racing against then? Who would you say makes it an enjoyable race racing against?
I enjoy racing everybody. As I said, everybody's different. I think I enjoy racing, obviously, the likes of, because we're friends away from a track as well. It was Bill Hose and Amy Jagger and Stephen Young and his brother. We always have a good crack in the pits afterwards, and we always race each other fair and clean. But if we're not really battling for anything major and we're sort of lounging about 9th and 10th, we probably have a bit of fun together to spice it up a bit, But and in terms of a bit more serious, as I said, Kev's always good to race against, because you know what you're going to get with him. If you give him a hit, he's going to hit you a bit harder back, and vice versa. So, but as I said, most of the time he just blitzes us. So it's probably not really a race half the time with him, is it? So
he's gone.
Yeah, obviously your dad as well. He's a laugh sometimes. Comes wailing in, and chucks it in front of you, and then next corner he lets you back by again, and then chucks it in again. And I think, come on, Dave, let's get excited. But no,
Makes you think.
everybody, they're all
So,
good fun.
who would we've talked about who you think are the three top drivers at the moment, but who would you say are the top three drivers of all time in V8s?
Oh, that's tough. That is tough. Again, undoubtedly, just for what he's won, you'd have to put Kev in one of the three, wouldn't you? Because he's just, as I said, he's won so much and he's been doing it such a period of time, and he's still winning now. And in fairness, I think you'd be a foolish person to bet money against him winning more majors while he's still doing it. So he's only going to add to it, really, isn't he? But so he's definitely got to be one. Chris BriSCA winning 4 world finals on a trot. I mean, that realistically, it might happen, but I can't see any. But to win 4 on a trot takes some doing, doesn't it? I mean, it's everybody watches world finals, and to win 2, you're doing well, ain't you? But to win 4 on a trot, that's just goes over my head. That really. So I don't know how he's done it, but he's doing something right, and so yeah, he'd be one of them. There's so many really. There's Mick Rogers. Obviously, I was quite young when he was at the height of what he was doing, but he won so much, so he'd have to be placed at one. You had Andrew Smith. Obviously, he's gone on to be your main man in F1s, hasn't he? So you had Stuart Smith. I think when it comes to all time, I mean, in fairness, being a fan of the sport in general as a whole, I wouldn't like to say top threes, because I think it's not really fair on any of them, because if you win one world final, you're classed as one of the best, aren't you? So I think you can't really go saying the greatest of all time, because different eras mean different skill sets and different things going on, don't they? Different tracks, different cars, health and safety was different back then, probably different formats. You know, there's so many variables, isn't there? What it is today, it wasn't like that 20 years ago. So they probably look at it's a lot harder back then as what it is now, and some might say it's probably a bit more tricky now and what it is then, because everybody's got good cars, and back then some of them had sheds. You just don't know, do you? So but yeah, that's my stand on it.
There. Where do you see the sport going in 10 years' time from now?
I think it'll still be there. What it'll be, I don't really know, because obviously they're pushing for all this electric stuff coming in, aren't they? So
yeah,
how that's going to affect a sport which is still running V8 engines, and and you know, in sucking two gallons of fuel every race. I don't really. I don't know. It's hard to say. As I said, yeah, they're definitely. I believe a sport will still be going, but in what capacity or how it'll look, or whether there still be engines we're running now, or it's just I don't know.
Not looking at a hybrid version then.
The trouble is, it's the big question mark for me. It's not so much if it'll happen. It probably will happen, but that technology is going to be so expensive for people. I just can't logically see how the sport's going to be viable for a lot if the government starts pushing them to do that in, say, 10 or 15 years from now. I just can't realistically see a viability for it. But I don't know. As I said, you need a crystal ball, wouldn't you? As I said, I think they're going to be safe for a foreseeable future, and I think in 10 years' time you'll definitely have a sport. But as I said, how it'll look, I wouldn't want to put money on it. So
yeah, probably different engines that they're using from what they're using now. You know, who knows?
Well, I'll have a beard down to my belly button then. So
I look forward to seeing that. So, what does the future hold for you in terms of racing?
we'll be carrying on for a little bit yet. I think I did make reference a few years back at 2022 because it matched with a number were going to be my final year, but
Now it's
that
getting
was a few
closer.
years back, yeah, and it come up a bit quick, didn't it? So
Time's
mate,
passing too fast.
well, I thought it'd all match in, but as I said, we've sort of 1 year away now, and I feel like I've underachieved a bit. So I think maybe 2032, maybe. You know, we'll see. Then I can see what the sport looks like in 10 years, can't I?
Yeah, then you'd know, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see whether you like it or not still.
No, I think we'll definitely still be about. We want to do. As I said, I'd love to win something major just to say we've achieved something
Yeah.
and get your name properly in the history books from it. But whether it'll happen or not, as I said, I just want to enjoy it, and as long as the people are helping me and everybody and Shannon and everybody's happy to keep supporting us year after year doing it and happy to let me do it, then I think we'll continue for a bit, yeah.
Is there anyone that you'd wish to thank or give a special mention to?
Yeah, definitely. Just a thank you to everybody that's sponsored us throughout the years. It's there's so many people I could list there because I've been very fortunate, even right up tonight now as we speak. I've been very lucky with sponsors, and I've always had good help of people in the right places to, you know, financially help us, which without them I wouldn't be able to do it how I do it. So I'm very thankful to them. Um, Obviously, all my team that have helped us throughout the years. Some obviously don't help us now because they've gone on to have families and that and can't commit to a time. But I'm still grateful. There's obviously I can name him as Jamie. He's still keen as mustard. He mouths off in the pits about it when you do something wrong, don't he? But he's keen as mustard. There was Keith. There's Jaff. There was Ollie years ago. There's Ian, Shannon's dad. He helps. Obviously, my dad. He was just massive input, missing like crazy, but he was. My mum for obviously being supportive. My family, just so many, and obviously since my dad, I've just got to say a big thanks to Roy Allen as well because he's helped me massively with things from engines and he the other week I needed some help with some exhausts which needed some work doing on them and he sorted them out for me and he just always at the end of a phone to give guidance if you need it and if you're willing to go and help him or get him it'll always help you out and he
Yeah.
to be fair the last year he really has kept us sort of on track because without him it'd have been tough to sort of carry on because we just had to sort of have a bit of a rethink how we do things and he's sort of just been there to help really. So yeah, I'm grateful to that.
Super. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me this evening, and the best of luck for the hunt for that major title.
I if it happens at Bradford, I'll make sure I'll get you all a beer.
All right, I'm up for that. Take care.
All right, thank you. Bye bye.